Hello and welcome to another morning afternoon show. DJ and Vish coming to you on this Saturday morning after the Canes lose to Louisville 24-21. DJ, rough night for the boys.
A Saturday morning of mourning, I think is how I'll put it. And I was waiting for Carson Beck and Mario Cristobal to have one of these games this season because they're always due for one. I did not expect it to be against Louisville, but I'm not surprised.
Because we'll definitely get into details on what transpired, what it means going forward. I mean, we talked about this a little bit on the Monday show. Obviously, didn't expect last night's performance, but there's a lot of games left, so we'll get into that as well. And there are a lot of issues that need to be addressed too. So we got a lot to cover today. Before we do that, word from our sponsor, who they specialize in helping people when they're in tough spots, and we could use some help from the guys at 305-800-PAIN this morning. After an accident, every minute counts. With one call to 305-800-PAIN, you get immediate access to trusted doctors and attorneys who guide you step by step. The A+ rating from the Better Business Bureau, they are a brand you can trust. Much like 5 Reasons Canes, 305-800-PAIN is focused on the local community of Miami-Dade County and South Florida. They'll handle all your accident needs, including car accidents, personal injuries, and related legal matters. So after an accident, be sure to call 305-800-PAIN. The number is the brand, 305-800-PAIN. Después de un accidente, cada minuto cuenta. Con una llamada a 305-800-PAIN, ustedes pueden obtener acceso inmediatamente a doctores y abogados para ayudar con todo el proceso. Con una clasificación de A+ del Better Business Bureau, pueden confiar en ellos. 305-800-PAIN tiene mucho en común con las 5 razones Canes están enfocados en la comunidad local de Miami-Dade County y a Florida del Sur. Ellos pueden ayudar con todo después de un accidente, incluyendo accidentes de carro, lesiones personales y otras cosas legales relacionadas. Entonces, después de un accidente, llama 305-800-PAIN. El número es el nombre de la marca, 305-800-PAIN. That's something Mario might need to be dialing this Saturday morning. As you said, the fan base is in pain. We're in pain. This is a painful performance. Lot to unpack from that game, which, I mean, somehow the Canes were in with 30 seconds left. I don't know exactly how, given the way the game played out, but I guess let's just start right from the beginning. Louisville took the ball right down the field and got a touchdown, and that set the tone for the game. The Canes never tied it after that. So, DJ, what were your initial thoughts on kind of how the game unfolded initially?
Louisville played like they had nothing to lose. Miami played like they were worried about losing, and you could see it in how confident Louisville played. Chris Bell played fantastic for Louisville, but yet even as Louisville went up 14-0, I still had hope, as I'm sure all of us did, that Miami would come back. I mean, you have electric playmakers on both sides of the football, and like you said, they almost did, but yet they just couldn't seem to finish. And as much as I want to sit here and say they couldn't finish, but they played well, they really struggled in several aspects, which we can kind of break down a little bit here. But it was just kind of a game that Louisville took control, and while Miami made their steps to come back, Louisville made sure to put the foot to the gas, so to speak, and never let up.
Yeah, no, there are several things that are disappointing / worrying from this game. I haven't watched every Louisville game, obviously, because we covered this team and they play at the same time and all that. But I think it's fair to say, despite obviously the turnover margin was huge in determining the outcome, but it felt like the better team won the game, and that's a problem. This is not, this is not a situation where the Canes made these mistakes and blew the game. I mean, right from the opening snap, Louisville looked to be the better team, and that's a problem. That we did not expect to be addressing after this game. So I think when as we're going to obviously deep dive into this performance from last night, I think that's kind of one of my takeaways is that the Canes got completely outplayed, outcoached. the Canes have been physically dominant this year. That did not happen at all. And ultimately, a lot of the mistakes came out of pressing because the plans A through C weren't working. But yeah, so we can see how kind of the drive breakdown. Louisville kind of jumped out early. Canes get up a lot of explosive plays last night, a lot of big touchdowns. And yeah, they never really got back. Never got back to tie. And it went from there. Let's start with the offense here a little bit. And obviously, let's just start with the you mentioned him already once. Carson Beck really, I mean, the interceptions were killer. Obviously, that's not 4 interceptions. You're not going to win a lot of football games doing that. What were your thoughts on his performance?
And you may call me an opportunist, you may call me pouncing on the moment or whatever, but this right here is exactly why I wasn't necessarily a huge fan of Carson Beck coming, and not necessarily Carson Beck coming, but Carson Beck as a quarterback. He can make a lot of really good throws, right? And he can make throws on a dime. He can make throws in tight windows. He tends to fall in love with it too much. We saw it at Georgia, and the argument was that Georgia's receivers aren't nearly as good as Miami's, which is true. But he tends to press, meaning, kind of try to force things that aren't there. And we saw it a little bit. I believe it was during the USF game where he threw the 2 interceptions? And now
yes, it was. Yes.
And now we saw
it. Yeah.
And now we kind of saw those errant throws against Louisville too. And shout out to Louisville defense, but at the same time, I think they kind of pressed them.
Yeah, and they again, I think obviously we're going to be looking at the Canes. That's the team we cover, and that's who our our listeners and viewers want to hear about. But yeah. Louisville was outstanding, and I do think some of this is you have to acknowledge that your captain. Like one of the interceptions, the one on the 4th down where Beck got hit, and I mean that one was just you got to get the ball out because you take a sack, it's 4th down anyway, and it got picked. Was an easier interception. The rest of these were, I mean, diving, just ridiculous catches that are you don't expect defensive backs to make. Doesn't mean they were good throws; they were not. It doesn't, mean that they were the right read because they were not. Although we'll talk about the last interception a bit because there's a lot that went into that one. But certainly the first one, he's thrown it into, I believe there are 3 or 4 Louisville players in the area. And again, one of them made it. The interception is like top. You're not going to see better interceptions than the catch the kid made on that one. So yeah, it's also it's a combination. It's a bad read. You should not have thrown it there. The throw actually was headed to where Malachi Tony was, but it got intercepted because there was other defenders in the area. So the actual execution of the throw, he threw it where it needed to go if you're trying to fit it in there, but you shouldn't be trying to fit it in there. Yeah. But the catch, I mean, 9 times out of 10, that's incomplete because there's no way that a defensive back is going to make a running, diving catch laying out like that. But he did. Right. And so kudos to Louisville. They made all the plays. I do think he got impatient when he fell behind by a couple of touchdowns. And actually, if we go back to the play-by-play, I do think there was an element of lack of patience when it got to 14-0, because you look at even this touchdown drive. Look at how he's pressing the ball up the field. It's a 30-yard pass, a 39-yard pass, and then they ran it from inside the 10. Like that was one of the touchdown drives. The only other touchdown drive was a 2-play drive after the fumble. There was not a lot of driving, but this is a team that all year has had those long, sustained drives. Couldn't do that in this game. But to me, this was just a sign of what was to come, because, of course, on the next drive, he's thrown down the field into coverage and it's getting picked. And this is, he's thrown from his 18 to Louisville's 32. I think we all know that play is the one that Tony might have been interfered with on. But again, if you found the triple coverage, can ask for the rest of it. I know everyone's like, he got his jersey pulled. I mean, that's fine. Like, should they call it technically? But it's a bad read. Don't throw it in that. Yeah. And then be like, oh, well, there was contact. Like, I mean, you're not going to get bailed out. And then
his throws weren't necessarily bad, but his reads, I thought, his initial reads were.
And this one, too, if you look at again, from the 32, he's thrown it all the way down the field again. I think he got impatient when the team fell behind, tried to throw them back into the game, and it just wasn't happening. Those 2 interceptions were both on deep shots, and that was after the touchdown drive was 2 throws down the field in a row that he did hit. So, yeah, I think he lost a little bit of patience. And after that, I think Dawson pulled the reins in quite a bit, and I think that was also a mistake. You got to play your game. Like, if you're the better team, if you think you're the better team, it's debatable whether Miami actually was, but if you think you're the better team, you have got to stick with it and really just, stick with your game plan. It felt like there was a little bit of abandonment. But the other thing, I think one of the reasons that Beck was pressing is this section right here, because we have a problem here, DJ.
I was just looking at that section right as you were. Yep.
Yeah, go ahead. The run game. What the hell?
It sucked. But looking at these numbers, it's really, really glaring. And Mark Fletcher, yes, touchdown. Okay, whoopee. Malachi Tony rushing touchdown. All right, nice.
Yeah,
but 24 carries for 63 yards and 2 touchdowns for an average of 2.6 yards per carry and a meaning longest run of the day, of 12 yards is not going to get it done. And we kind of saw this a little bit in the Florida State game when Florida State stacked the box and kind of forced Miami to throw. Carson Beck had one of his best games of the year in that game, I thought. I thought he played really well and adjusted to that. But that should have been a sign of not a sign of things to come, but I can bet that Louisville might have looked at, the game against Florida State or other times where teams have stacked the box and said, hey, let's do this too. Let's take away their run game. And they were able to do that. Now, with that being said, these numbers, box stacked or not, are still extremely concerning. They've played great for most of the year, and I know you touched on the fact that they abandoned their game plan of running the football and stuff, but there really wasn't anything there. So that in itself is a whole nother issue.
Yeah, and like you mentioned against Florida State, they stacked the box. So, the Kansas have played different styles of defenses. Frankly, against Notre Dame and USF, they were able to run the ball against.
Yeah.
The thing doesn't matter, but those are 2 other ranked teams that the Canes have played. They were able to run against stacked decks. UF plays a 2 deep shell coverage as a base, so they're never going to stack the box, so the Canes are able to run on them. As you said, when Florida State stacked the box, Carson Beck lit them up. In this case, that did not happen, and that's where the problem was, right? Like they took away the running game, and the Canes receivers. I mean, Malachi Tony had a good game. CJ Nails had a good game. There is nothing after that, and these numbers are problematic too because there was the offensive line did not dominate up front like we want and expect, and again, that's a problem too. If you're sitting here saying you can't push around teams, then I mean that's kind of what the Canes' identity is built on. But they did give Carson Beck plenty of time to throw. He's rarely under pressure. And the receivers, other than Tony and Daniels, could not get open.
Yeah.
There were plenty of times where Carson Beck is standing back there and like going through his progressions. There's no one open. And yeah, I mean, some of the stuff we were worried about coming into the year, you mentioned, Carson Beck's interceptions last year manifested. So did the wide receiver room.
Yes.
And concerns about that. Because that showed a bit like that there needs to be a third option that can get open, and that just was not happening. Everything can't go to Daniels and Malachi Tony. There's got to be more.
Although both outstanding players, but you're right, they can't.
But I guess if teams are going to crowd, because I think that the different thing Louisville did, which again they played at a high level and they were coached at a high level.
They did well. They did well. Yep.
Yeah, but the thing that they did is they kind of just, even though Tony's numbers are obviously great and so are Daniels are good as well, they were still rolling coverage that direction and saying Keelan Marion, who did have 5 catches, but they were kind of a lot underneath stuff. Make that guy beat me. And he didn't. and that's again just there needs to be more options. The tight ends didn't really do anything.
I know. I'm mad about that.
We're still waiting for Elijah Lofton to have a breakout. It's just I would say I would put him and going back to the running backs a little bit, Jordan Lyle in this category of this. These are people that we keep hearing, and visibly when you watch them, how they move. They should be explosive. They should be game winners and differentiators, and it's just not happening.
Yeah.
And has not happened.
It's kind of fun. It's kind of not funny, haha. But we were talking on our show on Monday. How JoJo Trader may not be able to see the field because there's so many options in the wide receiver room, and there's so many this and so many that. Well, after this game, assuming he practices well and is all good to go in all areas, then he could be that third option that we could be looking for. I don't know. It's just kind of interesting the reversal, and this game showed that we need that third guy because teams are going to key in on Tony and Daniels, and we need a consistent third receiver, and maybe JoJo can get in the mix somehow now.
Yeah, no, and we have talked about he's got to earn his way back onto the field, so he's still got to do that. But yeah, there's certainly a third receiver option.
Yeah,
there's snaps available, and so he's still got to earn his way onto the field. But I feel like I think we're trying to do a little bit too much with the running game in terms of just. Like the carries, and I get that no one was effective, but I don't know. I feel like this is year 2 now of them trying to force feed the ball to Jordan Lyle, and other than the one run against USF last year, not this year, but last year, we haven't really seen that explosiveness and that playmaking. And part of it is the same conversation we're having on Monday when I said, look, if you want to actually get to the championship game, there's 11 games left. You're going to need everyone. So you're still, if you're thinking long view, we're halfway through the regular season. The postseason's almost as long as the regular season, the way college football is now. So you're really a third of the way through. So I get you're trying to get him carries because you're thinking at some point, this guy's probably the most talented running back in the running back room. We're going to need him. So I understand all that, but I feel like Marty Brown getting 3 carries is unfortunate. I thought I think he runs hard. I think he wears defenses down. He's physical, and this game was pretty quickly, shifted into a game of physicality, and I thought he could have used more touches. Again, but the running game wasn't working, so I get it, but I don't know what the plan is in terms of running back rotation at this point.
And at some point, it is what it is. And to me, that's Fletcher and that's Fletcher Brown. And, maybe Lyle can come in, and I know a lot of people are really high on him. I know he's really talented. Jazz and I have talked about him, and he's really, really good, but I think at some point you have what you have, and I think that's true for the running back room, and I don't necessarily agree with trying to get him snaps. I get wanting to get him snaps, but it's just a difficult time to do it right now, if that makes sense, because you're entering high pressure situations while trying to get a guy back up to game speed, and it's just a tough situation all around.
It is. And there isn't a right answer. It would be more. I would say a lot of the stuff, because we're going to talk about some of the game management too as well in a bit. Mm-hmm. They're not egregiously bad decisions. It would be one thing if Fletcher was averaging 6 yards a carry and let's get Lyle some. But no one was running the ball well. So would it have worked if, let's say, all 5 of his carries went to Brown? Probably not the way the team was running the ball last night. So it's a little bit of like, okay, but situation here.
Yeah.
But I do think it's hard for any running back to get a rhythm.
Yeah.
When you're not even getting 10 carries. And part of that, again, was due to that lack of efficacy on the running game. So you can't put together long, sustained drives on the ground if you can't run the ball. And 2.6 yards a carry is not going to get it done. So,
and conversely, that affects Carson Beck because now he has to throw the football more, and he could lead to more errors or interceptions, as we saw on Friday. So it's kind of like a chain reaction.
Absolutely. And I do think he was pressing a bit, especially when the team fell behind. And you could see that he started pushing the ball up the field.
Yeah.
Initially had some success, and then eventually it did not. All right, other side of the ball, and then I do want to talk about some of the game management stuff. But let me just go to these global stats here. Let me take a look at the defense. I'd say a middling performance. They did okay. They were not dominant like they had been in the past. But I'd say the explosives. 2 of Louisville's touchdowns were long pass plays. Those were killers. Didn't do a good job of keeping Louisville out of the end zone. Louisville drove, which again ends up biting you in the ass in the end. Because as much as Carson Beck threw all those interceptions, all 4 of them were deep in Louisville territory. So it wasn't a situation where they were getting a short field.
Right.
So all 4 of them were deep in Louisville's side of the field. What were your thoughts on the defensive performance?
Honestly, and this is a credit to Louisville, I wasn't high on Miller Moss coming into this game. I mean, I know he was good at USC and he got replaced by Maivia and last year and whatever, but I wasn't really high on him. And I thought Louisville actually did a good job of letting him pass the football, but also allowing him to, defer to the running game and drawing up plays like that. We talked about Braum being a fantastic offensive coordinator, and he definitely showed what he could do last night. I thought the defense, I thought the defense was okay. I felt that Louisville was a bit more physical at times. I didn't think the defense played terribly. I think honestly it was just a really credit to Louisville for their solid offensive game plan. And as much as I hate saying that, the run defense obviously could have been better. And there were some things such as a little bit more of a pass rush that I would like to see. But, this game wasn't lost because of the defense. And I'm not saying that you're saying that. I'm just saying that in general. But I thought Miami was out physicaled in this game by the Louisville offense, and that was concerning to me.
Yeah, and it wasn't – I mean, I think Louisville did what – I think probably one of the more frustrating things from this game, DJ, is that on Monday, obviously our picks and all that were way off. But one thing we did say was Louisville has a really good run defense, so it's going to be difficult to run the ball, and they are going to try to control the game with quick passes and long drives. And the fact that both those things happened and the Canes did not have an adjustment to disrupt that is pretty disconcerting. Now, the defense didn't lose the game, but they also didn't win it. There were plays to be made. There were a lot of chunk plays given up in inopportune times. I mean, the last touchdown was 3rd and short. I believe around the 35, 40-yard line. Louisville's driving at the edge of field goal range. And, I mean, this is probably a microcosm of the game, right? Louisville calls timeout after seeing how we were lined up, and they threw a touchdown. They knew exactly what play was going to bust that defense. That's being outcoached and out schemed, and we knew they were going to go to that short passing game and just try to move the sticks, and they did that repeatedly. I don't know that I'm trying to think if they even had a 3-and-out.
I don't believe they did.
I don't think there was a single 3-and-out. So,
but the short passing game, just to touch on that really quickly, is a good point because it seems like the last couple of years, and I know it's a new defensive staff and everything, but short, bubble screens, short passing games, quick throws are things that this Miami defense really struggles with.
Yeah. And you're going to see a lot of it because they're not going to let that defensive line. They're not going to let Ruben Bain and Akeem Mesner pin their ears back and like do long dropbacks. I'm looking at the play log now. The only drive that Louisville had that was 3 plays was when they kneeled the ball at the end of the game. So no free and outs. So there's that. Like, so couldn't get off the. And a lot of long runs given up in bad situations, where again the Canes just need to get off the field and didn't. It's hard to remember, but that touchdown drive that Louisville got that ended up being the winning score. It was 3rd and 10 on their 25, and they ran the ball for 20 yards in a first down.
Yeah,
you can't give that up there.
I totally agree.
That ends up being a touchdown that drive. Like that's just unacceptable. And that those are ones where it's like, hey, you gotta lock in better. You gotta tackle better. Later on that drive, Louisville had 2nd and 13 and ran for 15 yards.
Yeah.
So that's a 35 yards on 2 plays in long yardage situations where theoretically you should be forcing a punt in that sequence.
Yes.
That ends up being the game-winning touchdown drive. Like that, I think I think it's fair to say the defense. There was actually, this loss was a team effort because the defense didn't play well enough. Obviously, the offense with the turnovers, the coaching, schematically they were outmaneuvered on both sides of the ball. But there were several that last little touchdown drive. Looking at the breakdown of it, there were several opportunities to get off the field there.
To me, it seemed like they didn't have a plan to stop Isaac Brown. And it seemed like they were almost, kind of surprised by his, skill set. He had 2 100-yard games coming into this game. He had 113 yards last night, and it just seemed like they didn't have a plan to stop him. And
but one of the crazy things is 35 of those yards were 3rd and 10 on the Louisville 25. He ran for 20. Same drive.
Yeah.
2nd and 13 on the Louisville 42. He runs for 15.
Yeah, it's like they forgot about Isaac Brown for a couple seconds on those drives, and it ended up really hurting them.
It did, and that was the one where that ended with Louisville calling that timeout to drop the touchdown play that ultimately was the deciding score.
Miami native, no less.
Yeah, I think they expect their front to be able to stop the running game, and again, 3.8 yards a carry. You're not sitting there saying that like Miami got run over, but I'd say both in the running game and the passing game. If you look at Louisville's touchdowns, and we're going to talk about that first drive because there was some inexcusable stuff on that too, but their touchdowns are 35-yard touchdown pass, and the second one, or the third one, is also this one I believe is 36 yards. So you're giving up, touchdowns from when they're on the edge of field goal range.
Yeah,
that's also a problem. That's 2 of their touchdowns. The first one will break down that whole sequence at the end of that drive because I don't know how you're not ready for a fake there. To me, that's also inexcusable because it's what they need 2 yards and they're sitting there at the 4-yard line lining up for a field goal and you're not even thinking they might fake it.
It seemed like there was we reverted back to some of the things we saw 2 years ago last year in games where we were where we weren't as good a team as we are this year. It seems like there's always moments, over the past couple seasons where we just revert or have, a brain fart here or a boneheaded, clock management thing here still. And last night, hopefully we got it out of our system, but last night, I saw that kind of tendency happen again,
Yeah, and I don't understand. You got to be ready for a fake there.
Yeah.
And again, ultimately you lose by 3, and all these. Looking back at it, there's just so many plays the Canes gave up in the wrong spot. Again, the 2 long runs we're talking about in long yardage that should have been punts that weren't, and that's a touchdown drive. But also just giving up a 35-yard touchdown pass instead of like tackling them and forcing them to take a field goal.
Yeah.
All of that matters. So that happened twice, and then the fake punt's the other touchdown. That's like, I mean, the fake.
That was inexcusable. That was completely inexcusable.
These are all plays you got to make, and they're not making. And so, yeah.
I mean, I guess all of them are inexcusable, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And just, again, some of it's damage mitigation. Okay, it's 3rd and 10, and they run the ball, and you're going to give up a little bit of yards because you're playing the pass, but 20?
Yeah.
Oh, and like, hold them to 6-7 yards and make them punt the ball. Like, that type of stuff. 2nd and 13, you give up a 15-yard run. You can't do that in football games. Nope. And again, the fake is like so obviously an option for Louisville that you should just have the defense out there and made them kick the field goal.
I agree. Yeah.
Those are inexcusable mental errors where, again, Louisville, credit to them, made the Canes pay for every single one of those. Outcoach the Canes. Okay, so a couple of situations. We haven't talked about the last drive yet, which we're going to. But before we do that, what did you think about the end of the first half sequence where Louisville's got the ball here, and they run it. This time the Canes did make a tackle on 3rd and 10. They got 8 yards. But there's 50 seconds left when that play ends, and the Canes do not call timeout and essentially let the half run out.
You know, when that happened, I thought back to the Pinstripe Bowl, and I said, "Oh, Mario's saving his timeouts again." And I kind of smiled and laughed about it, and to myself, because I even said, "Oh, I bet Vish and Jazz are talking about Mario saving his timeouts for later." But I thought there should have been at least like. That to me was still poor clock management. There should have been a timeout called. I don't understand why there wasn't, because in that situation, the clock stops after every first down, I believe, right? And so you have an opportunity to make something out of.
Well, they had all 3 of the timeouts.
Yeah, they had all 3 of the timeouts. You had an opportunity to make something out of nothing in a game where points were at a premium and you were facing a very aggressive team in Louisville when you don't know your next points are going to come, right? So that was just poor clock management again. I'm not sure why that unfolded that way, but
I can tell you why. So it was 4th and 2 at the Miami 45, and I think this is just not trusting your defense. Because if you call timeout, there are 50 seconds left. When that play, now since no one called timeout, it ran down to 12, and then you'll see Louisville call timeout with 12 seconds left. That's what this is. But this play ends with 50 seconds. So Miami could have called timeout.
Yeah.
I am pretty confident Louisville will then go for it. It's 4th and 2 at the Miami 45. They would have gone for it. If they convert it, they'll have plenty of time left. They still had their time. They still had a couple of timeouts left. So they could have moved into field goal range. So I think I don't think he trusts his defense, and that's why you just let the clock run out. And I think one of the disappointing things from last night is there was a lot of not trusting what got the Canes here. Like, I would use that as a push point. I would. Like, if you trust your defense, you call that timeout because you want them to go for it. I want the ball at my 45.
Right, yeah.
Let them go for it. I'm going to stop them right here and get the ball right here where I just need 15 yards for Cardiff to make a field goal.
Yeah.
But if you don't trust your defense, you're like, let them punt into the end zone. We'll go to half. And this was a not trusting your defense situation to make that stop. Because there's no way Louisville was going to punt if the Canes called timeout 50 seconds left. I think they would have gone for it. And at that point, Canes got to get a stop on 4th and 2. And again, I don't think Mario trusts them to do that. So he's thinking, if I call timeout, Louisville is probably going to score.
You got to trust your defense. I mean, in that situation, you got to trust your defense.
I agree, but you said, like, I don't know why he did that. I think that's why he did it. Like, because if let's say you don't trust I agree you should have, but if you don't trust your defense, you absolutely just, hey, let me get the hell out of here.
Yeah.
They're at the 45. They're going to let the clock run out. That's great. Let's get off the field.
Well, to me, you just trust your defense there. And,
But I believe that is why he was afraid Louisville would score. And I mean, look, the Canes were getting the ball first. Obviously, the drive ended up being terrible, but the Canes were getting the ball first. So
right.
They had the ball first coming out of the half. So there's it's not an egregious. It's not how I would have played it.
No.
But one of the things I always try to do is like, can I explain what they were trying to do? And this time, I think it is really just like he didn't trust the defense to make that stop. And because of that, he let the half run out. So there's a lot of back and forth. The Canes looked dead about this point.
They did
when they drove down the field and through the pick here. Now I will say this pick that he throws, there's obviously this one bailed out on that not roughing the passer that they called. That was one that if the Canes have gone down and finished this drive, they've been talking about for a long time because that was 100% not roughing the passer. And
I didn't agree with the call either.
It was a terrible call. Like Louisville got screwed on that play call, but the Canes got. Well, I mean, this whole sequence was messed up because, first of all, it did very much appear like on this play that the 2nd and 10, Malachi Tony appeared to get the first down. They marked it short. And then they call holding on a running back on a run play, which, okay. And they called a roughing the passer. And the ball basically went back to where it would have been if they just marked it correctly after the Malachi Tony plays. The whole sequence was messed up. But obviously, this drive ends with an interception. I will say again on this one, it's at the Louisville 28, and it's 4th down. And no one was open, and he just threw it up into coverage because he had to throw it up into coverage, 4th down. And that, to me, again, as much as there were the 4 interceptions, all of them were deep in Louisville territory. So it was not a situation where the defense was like dealing with short fields. And in this case, better than our offense was them fumbling and boys were running it back inside the 10. Because
the one time we stopped Isaac Brown.
that was that play. Obviously, the Canes looked dead at 24-13 after that pick. With a little under 8 minutes left, but that fumble on the next play, and then Malachi Tony into the end zone, and the 2-pointer, which he threw to Daniels, that all of a sudden the Canes were right back in the game. Get the stop eventually. Again, struggling to get stops. Not a 3-and-out, but got the stop, and then we got to talk about the end sequence here. So they get the ball with 3:50. You can see 3:55 left. I guess what were your thoughts on the way this last drive was managed?
Well, if there was ever a time to start pushing the ball down the field, I kind of maybe would have been a little bit more not aggressive in the pass game, but 2 yards to Keelan Marion wasn't going to get it done. Then you had obviously the incomplete pass to Tony. I would have liked to have seen maybe a little bit more effort to run the football. Again, you're not getting anything in the run, but just to mix it up a little bit, because you could tell by this point in the game, obviously there were the turnovers and stuff, but Beck was pressing to try to get the team back, and it was putting the Canes at a disadvantage, but he had to do what he had to do because this is how the game was playing. And, he did complete the passes here, you see a pass to Daniels, and then
the next one, I think he gets to Tony. Like he started hitting his throws now. He starts pushing the ball, like you said, started to hit some of these chunk passes, which is how the Canes move the ball.
And then he was starting to hit his passes again. Tony again, it seemed like he was going to Tony every single play, which he basically was, but. There
are two receivers he trusts, and he's just throwing to them.
Right, and we can talk about that next, is a much bigger problem. But then you try to get Jordan Lyle involved here again. Too little, too late, and then the interception. I mean, it was just as much as he was getting into a groove on this last drive here. It was a microcosm of the night of how the drives themselves were kind of discombobulated and unorganized.
Yeah, and again, there's 3:55 left when the Canes get the ball. They are pinned because the defense didn't get a 3-and-out. So starting from their own 15, they're still up 3 timeouts and the 2-minute warning. So it's a weird situation clock management-wise as the drive unfolds, because the first thing you're thinking is we got to go fast because, this throw, I think, resets the drive a little bit, the 17-yarder to Daniels, because this is 3rd and 13 after Lofton false started the Kings once again. A lot of penalties. If you miss that throw, you're obviously going to punt. You're on your own 15-yard line or whatever, and you're not going to go for it. And you still have a 2-minute and 3 timeouts. So, you're thinking that this Daniels pass, now you're like, okay, this is probably the drive. Because now you're going to use more clock and punting becomes less of an option. And then after you hit this next throw to Marion, then it's definitely, okay, now we're beyond our 40. We'll go for it on any 4th down at this point. But then this is where I have a problem with where the drive. So at that point, this is the drive, right? So before you're in this in-between state where you could still conceivably punt, once you get out past the 40, you wouldn't punt anyway, and the 2-minute warning is hit. So now it's like, all right, we're all in on this drive. Now, still have 3 timeouts left, and they're still in a little bit of a halfway thing where they want this to be the last drive of the game now. Before you're like, maybe we don't want it to be. Now you do, because you don't want Louisville.
It was very clear that they did, yeah.
However, this is too damn slow. You cannot run half. This is a fourth of the clock right there, and another quarter of it here. You use 2 plays in a minute, half the clock gone.
Even on the 6-yard pass, that shaves off what? I'm tired. So 17 seconds? I can't do math.
This starts with the 2-minute timeouts. Right? So they were in 3 plays in a minute. That's too slow, because what that does is this is going to lead to the interception, actually. They continue to play slow. Again, did not go quick after this, did not use a timeout at 59 seconds when they should have to reset things. That's why that's why Mario had all those timeouts when they were kneeling it. So this is way too slow.
Yeah, right here is way too slow.
What they're trying to do. They're trying to make sure Louisville has no opportunity to score. But what they did incidentally by doing this, because now this is the first down, just to get the first down. You have to run it here, I get it. Now they finally call timeout. There are now 36 seconds left. You're on the Louisville 31. You can't run the ball anymore, because Louisville will love for you to run the ball.
Yeah.
Because they're worried about the touchdown. But by playing so slow, you've limited your playbook.
Yep.
And that is problematic. Ideally, what you want to do is get to a situation where this is the end sequence of the game, but your full playbook's available to you. They had the timeouts to run the ball, but even if they had their best run of the night, 12 yards on first down, and call timeout, there's 25 seconds left, and you're on the 18, you're probably going to have to kick the field goal. This is a mistake of running too much time off the clock.
The gap between, and we've seen this before, right? We have absolutely seen this before, and the gap between plays here was completely unacceptable. And I get that they were trying to make sure Louisville didn't have the football, but you're not. These timeouts aren't going to roll over to next week at SMU or next game at SMU. Use them.
Yeah, and not just the timeouts, but they huddled this. If you look at this. 150, they snap the ball.
Yep.
Then snap it again for 34 seconds. They were 24 seconds. They were running the clock. There was no urgency. And again, then you get to this situation. You call timeout, and you have a very limited playbook at that point.
Yeah.
Because you're likely going to have to settle for a field goal in a situation where you're at midfield with 2 minutes left and 3 timeouts, and it limited the playbook, and that's why Louisville is sitting on the flat routes and the out routes, and they're able to just play the pass because they don't even care if you hand it off. And Kane Lake is correct; the team couldn't run the ball, so that's another problem. But even if they tried to, even if they had a successful running play, Louisville's good with that. Run it for 8 yards, call timeout. You're on our 23-yard line. We're just trying to force you to. You're already in field goal range. We're just trying to hold you to that field goal now and get to overtime. And it came essentially by playing this so slow, took the running game off the table and really took a touchdown off the table once they got explosive, and it didn't have to happen.
They were playing it like the offense was explosive the entire game, and everything was fine.
I would expect similar type of game management if they were down 2, not 3.
Right.
You got to go try to win the game, and also. The other thing I don't really understand here is you shouldn't be that worried about Louisville coming back and scoring if
You trust your defense.
Well, if you trust your defense, also go get a touchdown, and they have to go get a touchdown. Like that would put them that would put you up by 4, and so a field goal does nothing for them.
Yeah.
And so to me, this is similar to the end of the first half. The end of the game was very much not trusting the defense and being very conservative.
And we've seen this before.
In a way, coaching scared. Like, oh no, this could happen. Therefore, we're going to play it a certain way. Because, like, the downside to, let's say you played it. Let's say they did play it faster, right? And he doesn't throw the pick. Because obviously the pick game over, regardless of how you did anything. Let's say they snap these quicker. They're going no huddle here. They maybe use a timeout. And when they get to this situation, instead of 36 seconds left, there's 56 seconds.
Yeah.
The negative there is you throw some incompletions. Even if he makes a field goal, there's 45 seconds left or something, and you're up. And it's a tie game, and Louisville just needs to get to field goal range to win the game. And to me, you got to trust your defense more than that, because that's the downside. That is what he guarded against. The way this was, again, this is different than the not nailing it situation. Where it's like, dude, there's no justifiable explanation. Like, you can understand what he was worried about, but to me, you've got to be more confident in your defense and your ability to win the football game than this. Because this is what he did. This sequence, what this did is from here on, because this is really where it flips, right? Because you're at the 2-minute, you're basically at midfield, you're just inside your own territory. So this is where you're like, all right, how do we manage these last 2 minutes? These first few plays that took off more than half of it, which it took off like 3/4 of it.
Yeah.
What that did is that took Louisville winning the game in regulation off the table, assuming Miami scores.
Mm-hmm.
The worst case, you kick a field goal, you go to overtime. They're not going to have time to drive out. That's what that eliminated, which in effect is a good thing. But you took that off. But you took your team. You also greatly decreased the chance of your own team scoring a touchdown. So that's the trade-off. And to me, I think if you think you're, one of the best teams in the country, which obviously they do, you put your foot on the gas and you say, we're going to go score this freaking touchdown right now.
I agree.
And I think they played essentially for, we're going to secure the tie game and then try to win it. And that's what they did here, because you're in field goal range.
Yeah.
Carter Davis can kick it from 60. Like, they're in field goal. When Carson Beck throws the interception, you are in field goal range with Louisville having not enough time to score. So you have secured the tie. Now, obviously, through a pick, so they lost, but you secured the tie. And I think it's playing from, let me secure this tie, and then we'll see if we can somehow win the game. Which is an approach. It's not the one I would have taken, but so again, it's not as bad as, like, again, when he didn't kneel the ball and you're like, there's no excuse for that. Like, you just kneel and the game's over. This is one where if he plays fast and throws a bunch of incompletions, they make the field goal, and then they look at the clock and there's 45 seconds left. Louisville's got it. They've had all these explosive plays. You're like, their kicker is also excellent, by the way, if people weren't aware. He's one of the better kickers in the country. So they're similarly thinking, when we get to the 40, we can take a shot here. Then you're sitting there being like, man, we should run to our clock. I get it. But this was a little bit too much, I think. And I do think it did contribute to the interception, because they did not have to play the run game at all. No. Because they would love to have us run it, burn a timeout, and move 5 yards up the field and essentially completely eliminate touchdown.
And this entire drive, from the pace to forcing the Canes to have to throw, inadvertently put Beck in a tough spot as well on a night when he didn't have his best game. And, you don't want to make things more difficult for your quarterback, but I felt like the pace of the drive, kind of, although he was able to complete his passes and kind of keep it in rhythm for a little bit, the extended time off the clock also kind of wrote in that wrote in the guarantee that he would have to make some really difficult, high pressure throws on a night when the Louisville defense had his number. And for that, I think that put him in a very tight spot.
Yeah, and then I mean, look, in his defense, slightly, he did. I mean, maybe it's not in his defense because he kind of threw the receiver under the bus, but that was a timing route, and apparently the receiver did not run the route correctly on that last one, which is why it sailed past him. But I'm just wondering what the hell that play was even going to. All right, throw a 5-yard out route. They
right.
Call timeout. I mean, all of this is just anyway. I think this last 2 minutes was managed very poorly, almost incoherently. It was managed as if it was a tie game versus one where the Canes, needed a touchdown to win it. They felt like they played for a game time field goal as the last play of the game, send it to overtime, and I honestly don't know why.
And they've done this before. They did this last year, and they did this the year before. So, I mean, this is a kind of an unwelcome trend here for the Canes, and I was hoping they would be a little bit more aggressive, but we've seen this happen before, and it came back to bite us in the butt last year, and it came back to bite us in the butt on Friday.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, like if you throw an interception at the end of this drive, you're basically lost, and that's what happened. But it didn't have to. I don't think they put themselves in a position to win.
No,
they put themselves in a position to tie, and there was ample time to be in a position to win this game. So
they put too much effort to put themselves in a position not to lose, and ended up losing anyway.
Yeah, because again, if it shrunk the playbook. I mean, look, it's whatever happened on that play, whether it's the receiver's fault or the quarterback's fault, completely unacceptable. You got to protect the football in that situation.
I totally
someone screwed up, and it's not the coach on that play call, but it did limit the options available for the play call. And again, it obviously given that he threw a pick, you would much rather have a minute and a half left because you could have gotten the ball back. You still had had 2 timeouts. So you could have gotten the ball back with 35, 40 seconds left if you had gone faster. So that's a 20/20 hindsight thing, though. I think you're not worried about an interception, losing the game there, and that's exactly what happened. But the fact that I'm pretty sure had that, let's say you drop the ball, I think there's a very good chance the Canes are going to run out of time and have to take a field goal with timeouts in their pocket in a situation where they should have had 5 or 6 more plays to try and get a touchdown. They didn't.
Again, either way you slice it, this was a situation that they didn't need to be in.
Right. And again, at the beginning of the drive, it's a weird drive because you're starting so deep in your own territory that at the beginning of the drive, you're thinking, look, if we go 3 and out, we got to punt this. We still have the 2 minute and 3 timeouts. Then as you start putting that drive together again, Carson Beck made some huge throws on that drive to get them down the field. Now you're like, okay, you're all in on this drive, and then you're trying to, okay, how do we manage this end sequence? And to me, the approach was, don't lose the game. So we're going to take Louisville getting the ball back off the table first. Then we're going to get a field goal out of it, which they got into field goal range. And then and actually Mario kind of talked about this, then maybe try to score a touchdown. But let me pull up I do have his quote, which I will read. So,
again, and I'll just say before we read the quote.
Well, with over 30 seconds left this is quoting Mario. Well, with over 30 seconds left and a couple of timeouts, we're still up 48 yards out for the field goal. We're trying to move the ball to make it closer and try to win the game. That is a regular process for us.
Nope.
So I guess what he's saying is, there's roughly 30 seconds left. It's a long field goal. We're just trying to get it closer and hopefully find a way to win. And
nope, don't like it.
And that's what they were doing. That does explain the 5-yard route into the flat to get it to the 26 and call timeout, and then you're like a shorter field goal. Right. So that does kind of add up from the standpoint of that's what he was trying to do, but
It definitely does, but I don't like that mindset at all.
I think at the 2-minute warning is where you kind of reset the drive, or 2-minute timeout, whatever it's called.
Yeah.
So at that point, you kind of know, look, the ball is just inside Miami territory. We got to score on this drive now. There's no more punting.
Mm-hmm.
And you're down 3. Touchdown wins the game. Field goal ties it. All of that should color your approach. And it felt like they played backwards from tie to then try to win, which is actually what the quote was. We're trying to make the field goal get a little closer and then try to win the game.
I
and
like
they should
that.
have been trying to win the game, that whole end sequence. I knew they'd do that. They very well might have.
Yeah. I don't like that approach at all.
That drive, again, everyone's just going to remember the last throw, but this drive was Carson Beck, 3rd and 13. He drilled Daniels for that big first down. He's hitting Marion up the seam. This was by far the best drive he had put together from a consistency standpoint the entire day. And
38 to 203. Man, I didn't even see that time off the clock there. Wow.
Yeah, no, this is they.
Yeah, I saw the 150 to 126. I didn't see the 238 to 203.
Yeah, no, this was they. The fact that they were running out of time at the end is pretty egregious.
Yeah.
But again,
it doesn't explain what they were trying to do, and that quote lines up, but that's not. I don't agree.
Yeah, and I do. But again, I think when you get to this point, this is where you got to reset your last game. You got your 2-minute strategy, and it cannot be to step 1, run the clock down enough where they won't get the ball back. Step 2, then try to score. And I think that I do think all of that contributes to the interception as well. But again, this was Carson Beck's best drive right up until he lost the game.
Well, yeah, because he's like, "Oh crap, I have to make a throw. We're running out of time.
Yeah,
I need to make something happen."
And that was a situation where I think if they just trusted him to run the same offense that got them out to midfield, to get them in from midfield, I think it would have been fine. Instead, like you said, they shifted focus to running the clock. I
agree. I didn't agree with the way that drive was managed, and we've seen them play conservative before, and I don't agree with. I certainly respect his post-game press conference comments, but I don't agree with that strategy at all.
Yeah, no, and I think that's a good point, right? So again, the reason I keep bringing up the Georgia Tech situation a couple of years ago, these are all what we talk about at the end of the half, what we're talking about here. Not what I would do, but not indefensible. There's a big difference between the indefensible we saw in the past. In this case, I don't agree with that approach in either instance. I think you're the home team. You're ranked higher. You're supposed to be better. You stay aggressive. He went the other route, but it's not indefensible. It's not kneeling the ball when you just have to kneel it and then losing the game because of it. It's nothing like that. This is. I mean, you can see what he was doing. It was obvious. Then he confirmed it in his post game. He's trying to make sure that you secure the tie and then win the game. And in doing, they didn't secure the tie because we threw a pick. But I mean, let's be real here. Like, if there's no interception, which obviously any kind of interception, the game's over. If there's no interception, Carter Davis he hasn't missed a kick all year. He's got a big leg. It's probably this game's going to overtime. And that, rightly or wrongly, is what Mario was kind of trying to secure. I wouldn't say play for overtime, because to me that's a different thing. I think he was trying to secure the overtime as it's ironic because he threw a pick, but as a worst case. And I do think he did that. They're in field goal range. There's no way you're going to make a field goal and Louisville's going to get the ball back in school.
Right.
So I do think he did successfully secure the tie, except he threw a pick. But from a game management standpoint, he did do that. I just would not have prioritized that over trying to aggressively get a touchdown. And
again, taking all that time off.
There is downside to trying to aggressively get a touchdown, which is you might end up kicking a field goal with a lot more time on the clock.
Yes, and I totally agree with that too. I just again, the clock management. I get that they were trying to play for the field goal, but even still, I think that's a little bit too much time between plays.
No, it was full ass. Like they ran the like down a couple of times. 35 seconds is basically it's a 40-second play clock.
Yeah.
So, you are eating your clock, man. That was the thing that's happening.
Mission accomplished there. Yeah.
No, and again, I think not the approach I would have taken, but if he's saying, we're trying to secure the tie, in worst case, kick a field goal basically on the last play of the game to go overtime, he did that.
Yeah. I mean, and it does make sense. That's just not the way I would have played it.
Yeah, no, so it's not, again, I always try to say, like, what were they thinking? Like, this one, I mean, it's pretty obvious. It makes sense as it was quoted.
Yeah. Again, I mean, the only part where I was like, what were they thinking, are when they took like 3 days to run a play. And then, but other than that, I understood the thought process behind the actual drive itself.
Yep, we've got some commenters. Rocky, friend of the show, always here, says, that was not fun.
Rough night for sure.
Yeah, came like I mean, Louisville was better prepared and out executed, and the game plan. Like again, one of their touchdowns, they saw us line up. It was 3rd down and 3 on the 36. They called timeout, called the play in, threw a touchdown. Like that is excellent coaching. I mean, sometimes you just got to tip your hat a little bit. Yeah, I mean the run game is not working. I think a lot of our run game is predicated. This is from Luckbucks 5192. A lot of our run game is predicated on we're going to physically move the defense out of the way, and the offensive line the last 2 weeks has not done that.
And I was gonna say when that happens, it all kind of snowballs. But I will say too that Jeff Brom is one of the best play callers in college football, and I've always been impressed with what he's been able to do. And it's in that way, it's not a slight to the Miami defense so much as that we were facing an excellent offensive mind, and they came prepared on top of that. I've always hated facing Louisville for the reason that they have Brom, and I've always held them in high regard. So when you combine the knowledge of Brom with the playmakers that Louisville has, that makes them for a tough matchup for anybody.
Yep, and look, the Canes have a lot to work on the lines of scrimmage, tackling, the discipline again, a lot of penalties.
Yeah, I think 9 today or 9 Friday.
Look, sure. Yep, 9 for 67.
The yardage is a little bit less because I remember. I think it was last week. It was what 113 or something. So
yeah, but again,
we're getting better there.
it's just too much, and they were critical. Yeah. One of the drives stalled on a false start again.
Yep.
It's too much, and there's a lot to work on. Yeah, some of this is also going to be, look, we got to reestablish a way to effectively run the ball, and the passing game's got to tighten up, and not just Carson Beck. Obviously, he can't throw 4 picks, but there's clearly they're not in sync. And that needs to be cleaned up.
We need more from Elijah Lofton, and I know the running joke for me is the tight ends, but we really do.
To your point, it's been 2 years of this kid is something special. He's a freak athlete. Like you're not going to cover him, and it hasn't shown up on the field at all.
Yep.
And when we start talking about the offense needs someone other than Tony or Daniels to make a play. I mean, you're looking at him. You're looking at potentially JoJo getting touches, but those are like athletes that should be able to make plays. So
even honestly, a guy like Keelan Marion, he hasn't been bad, but maybe I'd see a little bit more out of him.
Yeah, I will say the other thing, just as we kind of close up here, we'll talk a little bit about where this leaves the Canes. But the other thing that kind of disappeared last night that the Canes need to get back to is the wide receiver blocking was terrible.
Yep.
And part of that, again, Louisville was, I mean, to me, the most surprising thing from last night is Louisville was the more physical team.
Yeah.
And that's something that not only Margaret Christopher, this whole team prides himself on. And we've seen it. We've seen it over the course of several games. And so for that to go away, like their defensive backs out physical our receivers.
They really played physically, yes.
in the screen game. That's why our wide receiver screen game is not nearly as effective because their defensive backs were aggressive and blowing that up.
Yep.
I think we're executing what we're practicing. I think.
Which in itself is a little bit concerning in some areas as well.
Yeah, I don't think, and this is again things that need to be worked on and accounted for. I don't think we have a plan B if our offensive line is not just owning the line of scrimmage. Because I think this offense is set up around we are going to be more physical up front. We're going to move the defense out of the way, or at least push them back. And at worst, we're going to average 5 or 6 yards a carry, not the 2 yards a carry we got last night. I think once that 2 yards a carry happens, we went to plan B, which is we're going to take shots over the top like we did against Florida State to throw those touchdowns. And that didn't work. Louisville kept intercepting the ball. So it did work on one drive. The first touchdown drive, it did work. He went over the top twice, hit both passes, and then touchdown. But then Louisville again, they did a great job at defending over the top as well. And
they came prepared. They came prepared.
Yeah, Miami needs more. Well, they got a fastball and a changeup, and he has slider.
Yeah. They need more from the running backs. They need more. I mean, as much as we talked about him not wanting to, not trying to integrate him into the offense too quickly, I'd love to see a little bit more from Jordan Lyle. But at what point do you sacrifice, what's working, to put a guy like Lyle in? Can you put out that comment again? I didn't get a chance to read.
Yeah, it's just about Lofton and how everyone's raving about him in practice.
We talked about him being that Swiss Army knife, being a potential running back, having that ability, and it just doesn't show up in the game plan or on the field. I agree.
Yeah, a lot to work on. I think. Well, we'll see. It's only halfway through the season. 5-1. There's a lot of good on the resume. Last night was a lot of bad. So now where does leave the Canes? Just going to the ACC standings. Obviously, so here's the thing. It is very early, and I think I saw a lot last night of, oh my God, it's all over. It's not. Nothing is over. One needs to take a deep breath. If the Canes keep playing like that, it's over because that's not good football.
Yeah.
But if we see more of what we saw in the first few games of the season, a couple of things just straight away. If the Canes go 6-0 over the next 6 games, there's a high likelihood they're in Charlotte. I know everyone's like, well, this team's going undefeated and that team's going undefeated. It's not easy to go undefeated. I want to take a deep breath. No one has even played half their conference games. All these teams are going to play each other. We're in the same conference. Everyone's going to pick up losses. Everyone just needs to take a deep breath. Everyone's already written UVA and Georgia Tech is undefeated into and I'm like, just relax. There's a lot of football left. But even if somehow a 7-1 in conference, 11-1 Miami team is somehow not in the ACC championship game, that team will be in the playoffs. You're not going to have an 11-1 team not make the playoffs. So that's the reality of it. So everyone take a deep breath. In terms of the context, what last night did is it did bring into play the possibility that Canes win the rest of the games and not making the ACC championship game. There's 2 other one-loss teams or whatever in tiebreakers. But it did hurt from the standpoint of overall, we all know it's a quarterfinal game in Miami. There's a very little chance they'll put Miami in that game now. So that hurts. We had a home playoff game in a game that you're not supposed to have a home playoff game in. They probably lost that. And then, look, they're going to they've lost any margin for error. You got to win the next 6 games. But if they do that, it'll be fine. You'll definitely make the playoffs, probably be playing in Charlotte.
Yeah, the sky is not necessarily falling after last night. The sky is lowering a little bit, maybe, but not falling completely.
Well, there's two different conversations, right? From the context of where this leaves you in the course of the season, you're fine, right? I mean, it's if you go 5-1 the last 6 games, that's not good enough. If you win all 6 of them, 11-1, you're fine. Whether that makes it into Charlotte or you're just going straight into the playoffs, you'll be fine. Like, people are trying to put Notre Dame in the playoffs with 2 losses. Miami beat them with 1 loss. Like, you're fine. But the concerning thing is, again, and we led the show off with this. This was not a situation where I cannot believe this is not like Syracuse last year. It's like, how the hell did that happen? This is like the better team won, and that team was not Miami, and that is a bigger concern than the actual like implicate. Losing by 3 points to a Louisville team, which will now be ranked, so everyone can be happy that the Canes have played another ranked team. But losing at home to Louisville is not going to get you like killed. Like that's not the problem, right? Losing by 3 points at home to Louisville is not the problem. The problem is you got outplayed at home by Louisville, and that's what's got to be cleaned up.
And now other teams have the tape on how to beat you, and I think the tape started with Florida State. You know,
sort of. I think Louisville took what Florida State did and executed it better. Like they didn't, I think for a drive, Carson Beck hit them over the top and made them pay for it. But after that, they made some great plays on those balls. Like those interceptions are tough.
Yeah. No, they played well. Louisville definitely won this game. It wasn't a fluke, and I'm not saying that you said that. I'm just saying in general, like it wasn't a fluke. They came in prepared. They played well, and they knew what they needed to do to stop Miami. So, I mean, shout out to them for excellent game preparation. I mean, you got to tip your cap.
Yep, but all is not lost. I think everyone needs to just take a deep breath. Again, there's a lot of football left to be played. Like no one, we just played half of our games. No one's playing half other than like NC State. So just deep breath, and then the team's got a lot to work on. And we'll see. We'll see.
Yeah, I mean, still everything's still kind of in play, and this was a tough loss, but there's still a lot of season to be had, and it just goes to show that any team can beat anybody on any given Saturday or Friday or Thursday or whenever the heck you play these games, or Tuesday. But no, it just goes to show that college football, there are no guarantees in college football, and I'll be very curious to see what the AP poll looks like. I believe it comes out Sunday.
Yeah, honestly, it doesn't. They're gonna drop us, and it doesn't matter.
I'm just kind of curious, just for the fan part of it. Probably Ohio State.
It does, but at the end of the day, you gotta take care of these 6 games, and then if you do that, everything will be fine. If you lose another one, you're going back to the Pop-Tart Bowl. I mean, that's where the Kings are sitting right now. So.
The Pop-Tart Bowl with the Pop-Tart.
I mean, the season is there now, right? Like the new playoff format is forgiving, but they've used their forgiveness up, and so now it's 6 games, 6 conference games, and you got to run this thing to 11-1 and 7-1 in conference. And if you do that, you'll be fine.
One more loss, and we could be looking at the Pop-Tart Bowl. But
that's what I'm saying. This is the stakes of the game. It's playoff or Pop-Tart every week now.
Playoff or Pop-Tart. I mean, I do love a good Pop-Tart, but I'd rather us not be there.
Yeah, that was for last year on that bowl game. Yeah. No, it did appear like Louisville put us in a box, and we were happy to stay in it.
Yeah. I agree with that for sure. And not only happy to stay in the box, but you couldn't get out of it when we needed to.
Well, I think we came in with the idea. Well, I think we came in with the idea that we knew they had a good run defense, knew they were going to stack the box, and our approach was to go over the top and again, for the first touchdown drive that worked, and then after that it kind of did not. So.
Well, one of the things they need to work on, I guess, if you want something that they need to work on, it's finding a plan B and a plan C when plan A doesn't work.
Yeah, and then being willing to. I still think they should have pushed the ball more with the field. I know he threw those 2 picks, but going into a shell after that, it was problematic. I mean, the only touchdown after the one drive where they went up the field on basically 2 long pass plays is that reverse that Tony got after the fumble. So
so
we'll see. 8 days to prep for. Got the extra day because it was a Friday game, so got a little bit more time to kind of prep for
it's going to be a good game.
Stanford coming in on next Saturday night. Then the Canes hit the road for SMU, so still low.
SMU and then Stanford. Okay, I mean still.
Yeah, it's Stanford, then SMU, then Syracuse, then NC State, and then finish at Virginia Tech and at Pitt.
That at Virginia Tech, at Pitt, those are going to be tough.
There is a reason that these teams are Power 4 teams, right? Even the bad teams have kids that can play. They all, with NIL, they pay players, so there's money floating around.
It's leveled the playing field.
There's going to be kids on every team that can play. So the Canes have to do a lot in the next week to prepare for Stanford and go out and play a good game. Yeah. But no, they do have. I mean, if you look at the ACC standings, NC State, Virginia Tech, Syracuse, Stanford are near the bottom right now. But again, it's they played 3 conference games, so a lot can change, and the Canes just need one game at a time, stick with it, and we'll see.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So, well, I mean, we've had worse post-game shows and worse moments. I didn't think this one was. Can't wait for buckets.
Yep.
You guys have done a good job on buckets. I've been tuning in the past. I haven't left any comments in the chat or whatever, but I've been tuning in.
Yeah, we got this week we're doing predictions for the men's season. Next week, predictions for the women's season, and the season itself actually starts in a couple of weeks.
Any exhibitions yet?
There is an exhibition actually like 40 minutes. The women are playing.
Okay, cool.
A lot of people want to head out to campus. I don't think the men have.
If you're on campus, head out to the women's exhibition game in 20 minutes.
Yeah, they're at the lot right now. Yeah, these two come to mind. We didn't do a post game after the Neil Dome though. We definitely did after Middle Tennessee.
No, me and you did Middle Tennessee State, and we were not.
I definitely did one. I don't know who I did it with. Was it you? Did we do? No, Middle Tennessee was just the 2 of us. That one I'm sure.
Yeah.
I did a post game after that one good Manny Diaz team where we were playing for the ACC championship against North Carolina. They ran for like 800 yards.
Yeah. I don't know if he did one. I
definitely was on one. I think it was with you. But anyway, yeah, we've had some dark moments. This is hopefully just a speed bump on the road and not
therapy. This is therapy. Yeah.
Well, I mean, this can go one of 2 ways, right? This is one that you look back at the end of the year, much like Ohio State looks back at last year's Michigan game, like, what the hell was that? Or you're like, oh, that was the beginning of the end. It'll go one of 2 ways, right? So
let's hope it goes the first way. A little blip on the radar rather than what the hell was that?
Yeah, and again, the new playoff format's very forgiving, so you just got to stick with it. Even 10-2 could, that's what the Canes were last year when they were debating whether or not they should get in. You don't want to be in that situation, but there's no debate on an 11 Miami team that's beat Notre Dame and Florida and USF.
Not at all.
That's not going to get debated. So, but yeah, let's hope this is just a speed bump on the way to ultimate victory. But we will see.
There were a lot of glaring things that we got to clean up, but let's hope we clean them up.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so we will be back Monday, 8:30 with the full show. DJ and I, joined by Jazz and Blue. We'll obviously go more into depth on this performance. And yeah, we'll also preview Stanford, who comes to the Rock next weekend, next Saturday night. Got Buckets next week as well with again, as we head to the season tipping off there. So TJ, this is a long one. I think it was always going to have to be.
Yeah, I mean, we just kind of had to work through and talk through things.
There's a lot to get to. Yeah, well, again, we'll be back on Monday, and then of course next Sunday, TJ and I will hopefully have a more pleasant show. Reviewing Stanford, more Cardinals in town, so big Cardinals weeks for us.
Let's beat those nerds, right?
Yeah, exactly.
I always forget they're in the ACC. It still is.
I mean, this would be an all-time loss to have a team that's lost a bunch of games already, fly all the way across the country and beat you would not be good. So,
hey, we can blame it on jet lag and travel if that's the case.
They're coming to us, so I don't know. I think we'd have a hard time explaining that one away. Anyway, TJ, thanks for getting up with me on this Saturday morning.
Yeah.
Just everyone keep the faith, stick with it. Go Canes.
Go Canes.